And I wanted to do it in a way that makes it more useful to people who are watching, so it's not like, oh God, there's Flintoff again going on about his book. But I really do want to market, because I'm conscious I haven't done that very much in the past. And I want to know, what do you think as a coach are all of the possibilities and opportunities in marking a thing?
In completing something, I think people who generally are completers, when we ship things, get it over the finish line, often these kind of people can be very driven, be very focused, be very goal orientated. And I don't know about you, but often I found myself in that trap too, of thinking before completing something, I'm already thinking ahead, what's the next thing going to be? And the trouble with that is that there's just this it becomes very linear. And there's not any moments of reflection. And what I actually found really useful is applying mindfulness. Mindfulness shook my world. And I thought, okay, well, I'm supposed to be looking at the clouds here, doop, 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 now what? So it's always, and I realized, I found it quite comical at the time, that we need to stop and reflect when we've completed something and actually give it its due, celebrate it, and celebrate ourselves of having reached something, be in that moment, and just, what does it feel like? In the past, when I've failed to do that, when you cross the finish line and you're already 3 steps ahead without celebrating something, I don't know if this has happened for you, but it kind of has this meh feeling. That's a technical term, the meh feeling. You arrive at this place and you think, well, this isn't as good as what I thought it was going to be. So I think it's being conscious. For me, it's certainly been a conscious practice of making sure that maybe I block off a couple of days after something's been achieved, and I'm a bit rubbish at doing it by myself, so I invite other people along to be mindful with me, because I find that I get buoyed up by their excitement and by their reflecting back to me what it is that I've actually achieved. And we can celebrate together, because also I've discovered that no massive achievement happens alone. It's a teamwork. It's family, it's friends, people who have had to be there along the journey. So it's being conscious to insert that into the calendar, bring people on board who are happy to co-celebrate with me, and remind me actually that we're all in this together. That actually makes it a lot more fun for me, and it actually becomes kind of a group celebration, as opposed to, oh, look at me, look at what I've achieved. I'm not really comfortable with that.
Yeah, everything that you've said, because I'm right in the middle of trying to prepare for this thing, and I've just been on the chalkboard behind me writing down the names of everybody who backed my book, and it takes quite a long time to do that, and that's not a complaint. It's really focused my mind on how many people have been part of this, and that includes people who aren't financial backers too. So I've really become conscious of that. And one of the things that I heard you saying then that really resonated for me is how grainy the process of celebrating is, and granular, and kind of there's this bit and this bit and this bit. And the last few days have been a real, not very mindful, quite hysterically, like bonkers, losing any sense of being mindful, but also noticing all sorts of different angles on how people helped, what they did, who they are, and being reconnected with them in a vaguely mindful way.
Celebration also, what came up for me as you said that, doesn't have to be party hats and champagne. I mean, although every moment is improved by champagne, I think, but it's also recognizing, being mindful in the moment when it does get bonkers, when it does get chaotic. This is part of the process. And I think if we selectively focus purely on this moment of crossing the finish line and the euphoria, that's only the tip of the iceberg. Part of the process of celebrating is also including all of those kind of lesser emotional relatives to the party, the bonkersness, the chaos, am I ever going to push this rock up the hill all the way? So it's bringing that wholeness and realizing, then we can be in that moment with all the euphoria and all the meh and all the and all of the other things that come along with it, instead of just being selective and thinking, okay, I need to celebrate this slice of the process. It's all of it.
Yeah, it's not even just, you're so right, it's not even just celebrating, because I've become increasingly aware as the week's gone on of how it's going to be such a relief not to have this anymore. Like, and I love it, but it's also like, what next? Very exciting then.
And it's the what next. I don't have an answer to that. For me, it's showing up and just being creative, being curious about my desire to push on with a new project before something has completed. And I think this is a habit that I'm really conscious of, that I want to change. So when the urge to jump to what next comes up, instead of saying, oh, not this again, and self-flagellating, I'm thinking, okay, what if I was just curious about my urge to leave and swing to the next vine? What is actually going on here? And, you know, every situation is different, but that's also part of, I mean, maybe this isn't celebration as you intended it, but it's a consciousness, isn't it? It's a consciousness. That's, I suppose, what celebration has become for me. It's being a consciousness of completing a project. I'm a great starter of projects. I have so many ideas that are popping up like mushrooms all the time, but I'm not so good at finishing them. So it's a consciousness of bringing something across the finish line and accepting all of those other aspects that don't tend to get celebrated and noticed as just, it's not something that's specific to me. It's such a relief. Everyone's shoulders drop 4 inches when they realize that someone like you, who's so masterful at writing, that you feel these feelings as well. It's part of what makes this a human experience. Finishing anything, whether it's a book or a screenplay or, you know, knitting a scarf.
Yeah. There's so many different emotions. It's a bit like a funeral as well. It's like, goodbye, Queen Anne. This is really it. and also I'm aware that, you know, I say all that grateful for other people's help, but that's sometimes frustrating because I don't do the thing when it, and so what if something comes up after I've celebrated the end, and then it'd be like the, you know, like there's knocking on the coffin lid. It's like, no, get back. And how do what do we do with that?
I think it's thinking about it a bit like a British spring. You know, we feel like we've nearly got there. Oh, snowflakes. Nearly got there. Oh no, winter jacket out again. So there is this overlap between projects, kind of like a Venn diagram, you know, where one is finishing and then the other one is starting. And that celebration, if we can call it that consciousness is in that overlap part. So there is a part that will seep into the next project. And mentally, there is a part where we're already leaving.
Brilliant. I think it's a very healthy idea to move away from my coffin metaphor to the British spring. And on that note, because I'm really grateful for your time, and I want everyone who's watching this to watch it to the end. I'm going to stop the recording